Hi guys, welcome back to my series on writing. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to write an advantages and disadvantages essay with the topic globalization. But before we start the lesson, it is advisable that you come to my previous video on the theory. Now let's get started. The question of today is, it has been said that the world is becoming a global village in which there are no boundaries to trade and communication. Do the benefits of globalization outweigh the drawbacks? So in this essay, you're going to discuss both the benefits and the drawbacks of globalization. And then you have to show your opinion to give your opinion on whether the benefits are outweighed by the drawbacks. Now let's come to the introduction. For the introduction, you have two sentences. The first one, you have to paraphrase the general statement. The second one, you have to write a thesis statement in which you have to say which one outweighs the other. And for this question, the general statement is, it has been said that the world is becoming a global village in which there are no boundaries to trade and communication. And let's see how I have paraphrased this general statement. Globalization has been believed to promote the integration of individual countries into trading blocs, and distance and time zones are no longer a barrier to communications. So you see, we have boundaries and then I use barrier. Barriers is a synonym for boundary, and I have also changed the structure from using dummy subject it to the real subject globalization. And I have interpret the phrase there are no boundaries to trade and communication into this one, promote the integration of individual countries into trading blocs. Distance and time zones are no longer a barrier to communication. And for my thesis statement, what do you think my opinion is? However, this global village is presenting itself as more of a challenge than a boon to the world as a whole. You see? So in this essay, advantages are going to be presented in the weaker side paragraph, and challenges are going to be in the stronger side paragraph. And I have replaced benefits with a boon, and then drawbacks with a challenge. Now let's move on to the two body paragraphs. For body paragraph 1, you're going to state the weaker side, and in this particular essay, I have chosen advantages as the weaker side. Now, for each body paragraph, you have at least 3 sentences. The first one, of course, is the topic sentence. The second one, and for the second one, the next one, you have to write sentences to show why it is not strong. It means you have to give some, for example, in this case, some advantages of globalization, and then you give one example for a particular advantage. It cannot be denied that the positive impacts of globalization have become more and more pronounced in every aspect of modern societies. This is the topic sentence. Positive impacts is now in the place of the word advantage. more and more pronounced. It means it has become more and more obvious, clearly felt, strongly felt in every aspect of modern societies. And based on the conjunctions, can you see how many supporting ideas, how many advantages are included in this paragraph? There are two advantages. Now, the first one. Firstly, globalization represents free trade, which promotes global economic growth by creating jobs, making companies more competitive, and lowering prices for consumers. Besides, under the influence of technological advance, especially the internet, mass communication proves more meaningful than ever. The quick dissemination of information across the globe using various forms of media can help raise people awareness of critical global issues like climate change, terrorism, epidemics, etc. And I have given one example for the second advantage to show the power of mass communication of social media. For example, Earth Hour, an environment movement started in 2007, is now engaging millions of people in more than 180 countries and territories. Body paragraph number 2 has similar structure to the first one, but because you're going to show the stronger side of the argument. So you have in the topic sentence, it is advisable that you show your opinion. This means you have to state that, for example, in this particular example, you have to state that globalization has more disadvantages than advantages. Now let's see. Despite the benefits mentioned above, globalization poses more threats to people around the world. And in this topic sentence, your opinion has been stated, and it is the word more threats. And do you remember how many advantages I mentioned in the first body paragraph? Only two. And in this one, because you say more threats, then you have to give at least three disadvantages in this body paragraph. And can you see how I connect the three disadvantages in this essay, in this body paragraph? The first one I say one of the most common critics. Critics here is somehow similar to disadvantages. Something that people criticize, people are not approved of. The second disadvantage, another problem. And the last one, the most important thing, is put at the end of a paragraph, and I use on top of that to make it more convincing. Now the first one of the most common critiques of many multinational companies is the appalling exploitation of laborers who have to work in dangerous conditions with long hours. Another problem is the loss of cultural identity, as globalization may ultimately lead to westernization or Americanization of culture. It is especially true for traditional societies and communities which are exposed to rapid modernization based on models imported from dominating cultures and not adapted to their context. On top of that, the incursion of communicable diseases seems unavoidable. Globalization would make it a lot easier for regional illnesses to become global epidemics due to speedy travel. For example, the outbreak of COVID-19 originating in Wuhan, China, has spread to most of the world through cross-infection among people traveling on the same planes. The reason why I choose the incursion of communicable diseases As the last point in this paragraph is that I want to make my argument more convincing because coronavirus, the spread of coronavirus is a global issue, a critical global issue that is felt by almost all people around the world today. So I decided to choose a current issue, a current problem to make my argument more convincing. And I also give an example for this point. Okay, now let's move on to the last paragraph of the essay. There's the conclusion. For the conclusion, I think you should write something simple. You restate your position, restate your opinion, and remember to paraphrase the introduction. Avoid using the same word, the same structures. So, in conclusion, it appears to me that the benefits of globalization are quite eclipsed by its downsides. So instead of saying outweigh, you say eclipse. Benefits instead of advantages. Downsides instead of drawbacks or disadvantages. Now, in the final part of this video, I'm going to focus on some vocabulary that has been used in this particular essay. So, in order to avoid repeating words, I have used many synonyms for advantage like benefit, boon, positive impact. For disadvantage, I use challenge in the phrase to present itself as a challenge. Threat in the phrase to pose a threat to someone. And then I use downside, problem, and critic. And for this particular topic, globalization, I have listed some vocabulary into categories. The first one, the benefits, and the second one, the downsides. For the benefits, free trade, I use some phrases like promote global economic growth. Promote means to boost, to promote, to boost, to make something develop faster. Promote. And then I have mass communication. Mass means involving a large number of people. Mass communication. The communication involving people around the globe. Then I have dissemination of knowledge. To disseminate knowledge means you spread knowledge among a large group of people. Dissemination of knowledge. Raise awareness of. This means you make people to become more aware of something. Global issues or global problems like terrorism, violence, crime, HIV, incurable diseases like HIV, cancer, climate change. Next, I have some phrases for disadvantages. The first one, appalling exploitation of laborers. To exploit means to use something to an excessive degree. Appalling means shocking. Appalling exploitation of laborers means the labor have to work long hours under unfavorable conditions. Then I have loss of cultural identity. The loss of cultural identity. For example, if you are exposed to rapid modernization, with the development, with the advance in technology, then people, thanks to social media, people around the world are exposed to other cultures, and in time the dominating cultures like Western culture or Korean culture will sooner or later affect other culture, and you will be assimilated into another culture if you don't know how to adapt to your own context. The last one, the incursion of communicable diseases. Communicable diseases, that kind of diseases that can be transferred from one person to another. The outbreak of a disease like the outbreak of COVID-19 due to the spread of coronavirus. And then we have cross-infection. Cross-infection means a kind of virus, a kind of disease that are spread from one person to another. If you stay in the same environment, for example, uh, public places like cinema, stadium, or on a plane. So there is some important items of vocabulary that I think you should learn, and I think they're very useful for you in other topics too. And that is the end of my video today. Thank you for watching.